Welcome to the Mobile Workforce Podcast, where we sit down and have real conversations with business leaders that have been where you are. During these interviews, we'll dive into what it takes to improve systems and champion processes that maximize performance. Each week, our trailblazing guests share their experiences and understanding of the workforce to help inspire change, challenge our thinking, and share what it takes to successfully travel the road to profitability. Now here's our host, co-founder and chief evangelist of About Time and WorkMax, Mike Merrill.
Before we jump into this conversation today, just wanted to thank quickly our main sponsor of the episode, Foundation Software, for making this episode possible. All right, let's jump into the show.
Well, welcome everyone. We're super excited for this conversation today. And let's just start the conversation off by asking Jim, what do you think the key differences are between payroll being outsourced or in-house payroll for construction?
Thanks for having us here, Mike. Appreciate it. So at the highest level, the key differences are going to be, obviously, when you're doing your payroll internally, you're relying on a person that you trust to handle your payroll, making sure your employees are paid, taxes are paid, potentially garnishments, and basically you're doing all that internally. I mean, the biggest thing with outsourcing payroll is it does provide a lot of time saving because now you have a company that you can assure is always going to be there to handle paying the employees, paying the taxes. You're also shifting the liability to the actual payroll company, where if those things don't happen, the payroll company is actually liable for those tax penalties. So there's time savings involved there, definitely. I'm sure we're going to get into more detailed conversations here in a little bit about kind of different services and the needs of clients. But the biggest thing here is going to be relying on somebody internally that you really trust to ensure this stuff's done versus having a company that has been in business for many years that takes that liability and ensures those employees' taxes are paid on time for your company.
That's awesome. Great and insightful answer. Thank you very much, Jim. So Alex, in your opinion, what do you think the natural progression that you usually see construction companies make with this payroll management process?
Yeah, thank you, Mike. Great question there. And what we do typically see here is companies when they're first starting out and maybe themselves and a couple employees, them just paying themselves via a QuickBooks or kind of an entry-level accounting system, handling that in-house. And as they start to grow, they start realizing that, hey, I have more employees that we need to keep track of hours and kind of have a lot more on their plate when it comes to that company growing. So that's when they start looking to outsource, where, hey, we don't have time to handle it in the office. Let's kind of take that off of our plate as much as we can of that payroll. And that's when they see themselves outgrowing being able to handle it in-house. Whereas also, too, that question could be flipped as when they are first starting out small, they may not have time to handle that payroll in-house themselves, even though it's just them and a few employees. They have other things to worry about, working in the field, getting the job complete, whereas that may also be a time to, hey, we're small now, let's outsource now. Then as we grow, we're still working with that provider and kind of make that next step already, get ahead of the game here so we're ready as we start to grow and already have the processes and the systems in place to handle that higher workload as we grow as a company here.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Alex. And both perspectives are very interesting. Sounds to me like no matter your size, really, this is a great move in efficiency for anyone. So, Jessica, in your opinion, what do you think construction companies are experiencing when they are not using a payroll service like this and trying to do things on their own?
I think some of the biggest hardships clients will face is, not only from a time perspective, but possibly, as Jim had mentioned earlier, from a legal perspective. If you're not using efficient software and processes, your reporting can be inaccurate. You can face those penalties and fines for your taxes. You can have employees not getting, paid properly. You want to make sure you're compliant on all fronts of your payroll, especially for clients that have union employees or do some government work and prevailing wage work. Making sure those reports are handled in a timely manner and are accurate and correct is a number one priority. So you really want to find a process and a software that can help you get those things done.
I love that. But process and a software are definitely both important. You can have the right software, but the wrong process, you don't get to the value, and you might actually be in your own way, right?
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, so Jim, in your opinion, what do you suggest that companies start looking at doing when it's time for them to pivot, to get ready to make this transition from doing their own internally to hiring an outsourced payroll service?
And this will kind of tie backwards to the question that you had for Jessica, which she answered. And it's really about finding the right service as well. I mean, there's a lot of them out there, and the big name ones, and a lot of people just assume that, hey, I mean, the larger ones out there, the household names, that they can handle this type of payroll. It really depends on you. I mean, I run across contractors that they are contractors, they're construction companies, but maybe they're dealing in the private residential sector where they're quick in and out jobs where really, truly all they need is to ensure they find a service that pays their employees and pays their taxes, which there are a ton of them out there that can handle that. Now, when you start looking, that's where you got to get the team involved, meaning, if payroll affects them, if job costing affects them, you want them to be a part of this decision. So you want to get the right group together first. You don't want one person doing this to make their life easier, because payroll affects the entire construction business, from billing to accounting to project management, costing, financials. So what you want to do is start with the right group. And then what you want to do is you'll want to do demos. People will see webinars. Webinars are great for quick 20, 30-minute insights. But if you can't stop and interact and put together your specific list of needs before you make any decisions, you're setting yourself up for disaster there. So what you really want to do is you want to demo multiple products. I sell payroll service. So a lot of people are, well, hey, don't you want them to just look at you? Sure, that's fine. But if you want to do you and your company justice, you'll want to look at different products to find what's best for you. Because I'll tell you, like Jessica said, certain companies face different needs and different struggles, meaning, are you a multi-state contractor? That's a big reason people look to services. It's hard enough to keep up with tax law in the state you're doing business in, but as your employees start roaming all over the place, you got to find a service that meets the needs of, can they work in 2 states in a given pay period? There are plenty of them out there that is a no-no, or you start seeing employees receive multiple paychecks, which really can mess up their taxes in W-2. So it's really gathering the right group, doing demos. Don't be afraid to do multiple demonstrations. Do not be afraid to ask the person that maybe spent an hour or 2 hours with you going over payroll to do it again, because there are a lot of things that need to be unearthed. The more you really look at it, the more time you put into it, more questions you ask, the better off you're going to be when it comes time for this search. You'll know internally that, hey, we're just spending too much time on payroll, or we have payroll turnover is a big one. You lose a person, that next person up that you have to trust, you're trusting your entire business with them, because if employees aren't paid, they're not going back out to work, which means you're not completing work, you're not getting paid yourself. And if taxes don't get paid, there's huge fines. So whether it's office turnover or you just find yourself spending a large amount of time on payroll week in and week out, that's when you start to look, and that's when you want to make sure that you're looking for the service that can do everything you need, not just a few.
Yeah, I love, what a great answer. Very comprehensive. I love that you're talking about taking a very consultative approach and really digging deep into your unique business nuances, and not something you could just order online, like, Amazon Prime drop ship, and it shows up tomorrow and it jumps out of the box, does a jig, and your payroll's done, right?
You got it, Mike. Absolutely.
Awesome. So Alex, in your mind, what do you suggest listeners do to avoid some of the limitations that Jim brought up initially?
Mm-hmm. And this is going to be piggybacking right off of Jim's answer there. Is find what you exactly need. What are your company specific needs? Then through your search, find that system that's going to best meet those needs for you. It's going to help limit those limitations for you. Whether you're union, prevailing wage, a government contractor, and that require reporting that comes to it with that construction payroll, find something that's going to help alleviate those limitations for you in your search. Make sure it's thorough. And so you have that system up and running. Once you make that decision, that's going to meet all of those needs, those potential limitations that may come when it comes to your team-specific payroll there.
So, Alex, in your mind, what are some of the, I'll just use the word excuses that contractors end up making for reasons why not to do this? Some of the things that Jim mentioned sound very compelling, but when somebody leans back away from this instead of into it, what are some of those excuses or reasons why you think that contractors don't lean in?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One of the main things that we do see there is the contractors, they're very hesitant to change. They've been having a process in the office that they've been running for their payroll for years, and they're very comfortable with that process there. So they're also very hesitant, thinking, hey, if I do change this, I may lose control, or, overall just losing where we're at with the payroll process. They like having that handle on their payroll runs. They feel comfortable with what they're doing. So just overall very hesitant to change, as they're afraid of what might happen after that change happens. Are we going to miss some data? Are we going to miss some items when it comes following that change there? So we will see that, hey, they are very hesitant to change, but when you're looking to make that change, find something that is going to be specific to your needs, that is going to help overall increase and help our process of what we're doing in the office there and meet what we actually need, what we may jump into that change and change payroll processes there.
Love that. Jim, do you have anything else to add to what Alex just said?
Yeah, and that's perfect. And look, in doing this for 13 plus years, sometimes the owner just doesn't know what's going on with payroll. I see it a lot where the payroll person tells them this is the way it needs to be done. And even though, like Alex said, they're comfortable, they know it may not be the most efficient way, but they know it gets done. So it could be a combo of the owner says, hey, it may take this person this long to do, but this just is what it is because I'm being told that by who does the payroll. Other times it's just there's a misconception out there because there are so many services that do raise their hand and say, we can do your payroll. Then they get in, it's a traditional generic service that they can't do it, and things fall apart. And then it's one of those things where, well, I tried that, never doing that again. So then this misconception of, hey, I'm a complex union government, we job cost. There's no payroll company that can do that or understand that. So that's again about that search in looking at vendors that truly can do it and not being afraid to ask for references. If you talk to somebody, again, if I'm a payroll company who says we have contractors, and I put you in touch with a small residential, bathroom remodeler per se, where they're in and out of jobs in 2 days, but you're a heavy highway or a union, a multi-state commercial contractor, that's a night and day difference there. I mean, you're both contractors, yes, but at the end of the day, what company A needs for payroll versus company B is completely different. So it's one of those things that sometimes it's just a fear of that or the fear of change or just not believing there is a service out there that can meet your company's needs.
Yeah, great. Wow, you guys really nailed a lot of reasons why I think people are out there not making those changes. So I appreciate you sharing that perspective on both ends. So Jessica, in your opinion, all the things that are compelling that Jim and Alex shared with us, they're on the surface, they're visible, they're raw, their feelings and emotions and challenges that the companies go with every day or they run into. What are some of the unseen challenges and pain that companies end up having going on that you might be able to help with the outsourced payroll service?
I think a lot of times it comes down to you don't know what you don't know. Having worked with clients that have, come to a payroll service and go through the implementation process, a lot of times when you're gathering their detailed needs and specifications to try and streamline the process for them, you uncover so much more information and potentially provide them with additional services that they didn't even know exist or to even look for. I've worked with clients that kind of how Jim and Alex mentioned are a little apprehensive of change, where, I have a payroll clerk who's, still getting a napkin as a timesheet. And so this is holding up the payroll process, and these are causing other issues. The struggle just to get time is huge from your employees. So they might not even know the benefits of looking to add, say, a mobile timekeeping software that, adds a whole nother layer. So if you really find someone that is in tune with your business needs, they might open up the door to a whole plethora of other options that could really benefit you and streamline the whole payroll process from start to finish.
I love that. And do you mind drilling, Jessica, a little deeper on best ways for companies to manage that certified payroll or EEO compliance reports and those other things that maybe they're used to dealing with, but maybe there's a better way to do it through an outsourced service?
Finding the right software, I believe, is key. Having worked with clients, for many years that have come from a more general payroll service provider, they might not be able to actually help those clients generate those reports with a few clicks of a button. So one of the biggest things I've seen clients enjoy is when doing those reports are more automated and standard. The amount of time they are saving and the accuracy they are getting out of it is huge. If your certified payroll report isn't correct or accurate or in compliance, that's holding up your payment, which, really affects a lot of access, a lot of aspects of the business. So I think having things organized and having your individual needs met is huge.
Love that. So many great things, so many great points that have been shared today. I think a lot of thought-provoking ideas for companies listening that there is some room for improvement in most companies, and this is definitely one way to streamline those processes that you're probably going through today. So just to wrap things up, maybe we can just do a quick round robin and have each of you weigh in and share what you hope that the listeners will walk away with today. So Jessica, do you mind if we start with you?
Of course, put me on the spot. I think the biggest thing is finding the right fit for your individual needs. That's going to vary company to company, and it really is finding something that works for you.
Awesome. Great advice. Alex, how about you?
I'll piggyback off of what Jessica said as well, is finding what your specific needs are going into that search, and also too, not being afraid to make a change. Change can be good for the overall processes for the team. So go in there with an open mind, but also knowing exactly what you need and not being afraid to jump and make that change because you don't know what's on the other side there.
Beautiful. Love that. Thank you, Alex. All right, Jim, bring us home, baby.
Yeah, just knowing that it's not a bad thing to look at your overall processes. Like Alex and Jessica said, change can be a good thing. Sometimes change isn't necessary, though. I tell everybody, look, when I go into these, outsourcing payroll makes a whole lot of sense for a whole lot of companies, but there are times it does not make sense. And if you're dealing with the right companies that are truly there to make sure they're putting you in a solution that betters your company and not just treating you as if you're a sale, that's what you want to find. You want to find the people that'll be upfront, honest with you, again, about the right fit, getting the right team involved, and taking a look. But if you deal with the right companies, I've been doing this again many years, and there have been times that very quickly in the process, I've looked at them and said, hey, unfortunately for you guys, this doesn't make sense. And, so a lot of times stuff, this is the Work Max podcast. So a lot of times I refer to, hey, it's the beginning part of payroll that's your logjam. It's the collection of the time, getting it into the system, and then it's, hey, they were looking at maybe outsourcing, and that wasn't the solution for them, but there are times they can walk away from that if you're dealing with the right company and say, Jim, you know what? That wasn't for us, this outsourcing, but a mobile app is what we need to do. So just looking at your processes, constantly looking to enhance and increase, your productivity and streamline your payroll. It's not a bad thing to do.
Beautiful. Love it. Well, such a great conversation. Lots of fun. And we think we're going to have you guys on next week as well, just to dig a little bit deeper into some other sides of this. But been very insightful and a lot of fun. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for joining us today on the Mobile Workforce Podcast, sponsored by About Time Technologies and WorkMax. If you liked the conversation we had today, or were able to learn anything new or helpful, please make sure to follow us on our WorkMax page on LinkedIn and on Instagram at WorkMax_. And subscribe to the show on iTunes or your preferred podcast platform so you will never miss another insightful episode. Also, if you enjoyed the podcast, please leave us a 5-star rating and review and share the show with your friends and colleagues. Your support means the world to us and will allow us to continue providing impactful information with others looking to improve their results in their business and, in turn, their life.